I can still hear the rustle of the paper in my hands. It wasn't just any paper. It was the final slap in the face, the legal stamp that said she won. The court has granted Vanessa Campbell partial access, rights to the lakeside property. I read the sentence again, slower this time, hoping the meaning would somehow change if I stared hard enough. It didn't. I felt my fingers tightening around the letter, my knuckles turning white. My cabin. Not hers. Mine. The place I built from the ground up, every plank, every nail, every stone set with my own 2 hands. The place I spent years restoring while Vanessa was busy sipping cocktails in boutique restaurants, whispering sweet nothings into Ryan's ear. Oh yeah, Ryan. Her new husband. Her upgrade. The man she left me for while I was still sanding down the deck, dreaming of summer mornings with the woman I thought was mine. And now she was coming back. Not alone, no. That would have been too easy. She was bringing him. And their stepdaughter, Lila. Like they had some God-given right to waltz in and claim what I built. My phone buzzed on the counter. I already knew who it was before I checked. Vanessa. I stared at her name for a second before I swiped the message open. We'll be using the cabin this weekend. You can't do anything about it. Cry in court. I felt the rage rise in my throat like bile. I could practically see the smirk on her face. That smirk that once made me weak, made me forgive things I shouldn't have forgiven. The same one she flashed in court, like she was collecting trophies instead of destroying lives. My jaw clenched. She thought this was funny. She thought this was a game. I took a deep breath and looked around my kitchen. Everything felt too quiet, too still, too wrong. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. I was supposed to be free of her, not stuck playing landlord to my own damn home. I grabbed my keys. The cabin. I needed to see it. One last time before they infested it. The drive up was second nature to me. I knew every curve of the road, every tree that lined the path. I had spent years making this place my own, carving out a sanctuary in the woods. And now, I was being forced to share it with the woman who had torn my life apart. As I pulled up, the late afternoon sun hit the new windows I installed myself. The deck I rebuilt, board by board. The garden I planted, knowing she'd never care enough to touch the soil. All mine. And now theirs. The thought made my stomach twist. You're gripping that will like it owes you money. I turned to see Marcus walking up the path, hands shoved in his pockets. Marcus had been my best friend since college. The guy who had helped me haul lumber when my back gave out, who stayed up with me drinking whiskey the night Vanessa's lawyer served me divorce papers. He knew. He always knew. How bad was it? He asked, joining me on the front steps. I exhaled sharply, handing him the crumpled court letter. He scanned it quickly, then let out a low whistle. She really got the judge to sign off on this? Yeah. He shook his head. Damn. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Oh, it gets better, I said, pulling out my phone. She sent me this. Marcus took the phone from me and read Vanessa's message. His lips curled in disgust. She really said cry in court? He shook his head again. What a piece of work. I ran a hand through my hair. I don't even think she wants the cabin. Not really. Marcus glanced up at me, raising an eyebrow. Then what does she want? To prove she can take it from me. The words felt ugly coming out, but I knew they were true. She didn't care about the cabin. She didn't care about the renovations, the memories, the work I put into it. She just wanted to win. And the worst part? She had. So what are you gonna do about it? Marcus asked, crossing his arms. I let out a hollow laugh. What can I do? The court decided. She gets the cabin. End of story. But Marcus wasn't looking at me like it was the end of the story. He was grinning. A slow, dangerous grin. The cabin, yeah, he said. But what about the land around it? I frowned. What do you mean? Marcus leaned in slightly. I mean, did the court order say anything about how you use the land? I blinked. No. His grin widened. Then maybe it's time we start thinking a little bigger. I looked around, my eyes scanning the space beyond the cabin. The acres of untouched land, stretching far beyond Vanessa's precious little victory. For the first time since opening that damn letter, I felt something shift. Something dangerous. Something right. Vanessa thought she won. She had no idea what was coming next. Marcus's words sat in my chest like a lit match. I stared at the land surrounding the cabin. Acres of untapped potential, untouched power. The legal document Vanessa had waved in my face only granted her access to the cabin itself, not the land beyond it. And that meant she hadn't won it all. Marcus saw the shift in my expression and grinned, slapping me on the back. Oh yeah, that's the look I was waiting for. I turned to him, my mind already racing. We could expand, he finished, nodding. We could expand. Build something bigger than a damn weekend getaway. I exhaled sharply, pacing across the deck. The wind rustled through the trees, the smell of pine and lake water filling the air. This was mine. Every nail, every beam, every board. I had poured my soul into this place, and Vanessa had tried to rip it from my hands just to prove she could. She thought she had cornered me. She had no idea she had just pushed me into my next move. I turned back to Marcus. A men's retreat. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Go on. I started listing off ideas as they hit me, my pulse quickening. A real place, somewhere guys can come when they need to reset. Outdoor survival training, business mentorship, mental health workshops, leadership coaching. Everything society tells us to just figure out on our own. Marcus let out a low whistle, nodding. A sanctuary for men trying to build something for themselves. I like it. I nodded, feeling that fire spread through my chest. And the best part? He smirked. She can't do a damn thing to stop it. I pulled out my phone, already scanning my contacts. I knew people, contractors, business owners, mentors who owed me favors. If I moved fast enough, I could get permits secured before Vanessa even had time to throw a tantrum. Marcus pulled out his own phone. I know a guy who does zoning permits. Might be able to help you cut through the red tape. I nodded, feeling the first real rush of satisfaction in months. Call him. By the next morning, we had a game plan. Marcus had pulled some strings with a local zoning official. Turns out, since I owned 5 acres of land, I had the right to develop it however I saw fit. No legal loopholes. No court interference. Vanessa had won the cabin, but I was about to take the entire land around it. I spent the rest of the day making calls, sending emails, pulling every favor I had left. First, I reached out to Adam, an old friend from college who worked in construction. He ran his own crew and had experience in building retreats, lodges, and outdoor centers. The call was short. Dan, man, I haven't heard from you in years. Yeah, I know. I need a favor. Adam chuckled. What kind of favor? The kind where I turn my ex-wife's victory into the biggest mistake of her life. There was a brief pause, then he laughed. All right, now I'm interested. I filled him in on the plan, and by the time we hung up, he was on board. Next, I contacted local businesses, sponsors who would love the idea of a men's retreat center, mental health advocates, leadership coaches, even a journalist named Mark who had covered similar projects before. The response was overwhelming. Damn, Daniel, you're onto something here, Mark said. This isn't just about getting back at your ex. This could actually help people. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the first real sense of peace in a long time. That's the point. By the end of the week, the first deliveries arrived. Lumber, tools, permits, blueprints. I stood at the edge of my property, watching as Marcus directed a team of workers, his voice sharp and commanding. Adam's crew had already started marking out the land for the first building, a large main hall for group sessions. Gotta say, Dan, Adam called as he approached, I've done a lot of projects, but this feels personal. It is. Adam smirked, nodding toward the cabin. She know yet? I glanced at Vanessa's empty, untouched cabin sitting in the distance. No, I said. Not yet. It wasn't until a few days later that I got another text from Vanessa. We're coming up this weekend. Hope you're not still sulking. I stared at the message, my grip tightening around the phone. Sulking? She thought I was sulking? I grinned. Oh, Vanessa. She was about to learn exactly what I had been up to. I typed a response. Great. I'll be here. I could almost hear the confusion through the screen. She had no idea, and that was just how I wanted it. The night before she arrived, I stood on the newly built deck overlooking the lake. The retreat center was taking shape, The main hall's foundation was done, the walking trails were cleared, and we had already started laying out plans for the outdoor fire pit and training areas. It was no longer just a cabin. It was a movement. I could already picture the first group of guys showing up, men who needed a place to reset, to build themselves up instead of being torn down. And tomorrow, Vanessa would step into a place she didn't recognize. A place she could never control. I let out a slow breath, feeling the weight on my chest finally start to lift. Tomorrow, the game would change. And she wouldn't even see it coming. The sound of construction filled the air. Hammers hitting wood, drills buzzing, voices calling out measurements. My land was changing, and I was changing with it. Vanessa had no idea. I stood on the new deck, arms crossed, watching as Adam and his crew worked efficiently. The main hall's frame was already up, and the pathways leading into the woods were being cleared. A week ago, this was just a cabin surrounded by untouched land. Now, it was a movement in the making. Marcus approached, wiping sweat off his forehead. "We're ahead of schedule," he said. "By the time Vanessa gets here, she won't even recognize the place." I smirked. "That's the plan." He leaned against the railing, looking out over the lake. "I gotta ask, man, are you doing this just to screw with her, or is there more to it?" I exhaled slowly, running a hand over my jaw. At first, yeah, it was about her, about taking back control. But now, I gestured toward the growing retreat center. "This is bigger than her, bigger than me." Marcus nodded, understanding, because he knew what I knew. Men don't get places like this. We get told to suck it up, move on, be strong. We get told that asking for help makes us weak. This place? It was a reset button. A place where guys could rebuild, just like I was. And the best part? She couldn't take it from me. The first batch of materials for the outdoor training area arrived that afternoon. I walked over to Adam, who was flipping through the blueprints. "What's next?" I asked. "We're clearing the area for the fire pit and open-air sessions," he said, tapping the plans. "After that, we start on the cabins for overnight stays." Cabins. Not just one cabin anymore. Plural. I smirked. "I love it." Adam grinned. "You know, when you called me about this project, I figured it was just another post-divorce crisis thing. And now?" He glanced around at the work being done. The progress. The purpose. "Now I think you might actually be onto something." That night, I sat on the porch of my cabin. The one Vanessa thought she still had power over. The place she thought was still hers to invade. A few feet away, a new wooden sign leaned against the deck railing, waiting to be installed. I traced my fingers over the carved letters. Rising from the ashes. That's what this was about. Not just surviving. Rebuilding. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Vanessa." I hesitated for a second before opening the message. "We're heading up tomorrow morning. Hope you've cleaned the place up for us." I exhaled a slow laugh. "The place up? Oh, Vanessa. You have no idea." I tapped out a reply. "See you soon." Then I set my phone down, leaned back, and looked up at the stars. Tomorrow was going to be fun. Morning came fast. I was already up before sunrise, drinking my coffee on the new deck, listening to the steady hum of work being done. The retreat was coming to life, and today was the day Vanessa would see it for the first time. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The main hall's exterior was nearly finished, and the walking trails were fully cleared. The fire pit area was set up, the space marked for additional cabins, and new signposts had been installed. This wasn't just some petty revenge project anymore. This was a full-scale transformation. I finished my coffee, set the mug down, and stretched. Then I heard the sound of tires crunching against gravel. Showtime. Vanessa pulled up in her shiny white SUV, rolling to a stop beside the cabin. Ryan was driving, of course. She was in the passenger seat, her sunglasses perched on her nose, looking as if she was about to step into her private summer estate. And in the back seat, Lila, her stepdaughter, the one I barely knew, but somehow was being forced to share my space with. The moment Vanessa stepped out, she stretched her arms, exhaling dramatically. "Ah, it feels so good to be back," she said, as if this place had ever meant anything to her. I didn't say anything. I just leaned against the railing, watching. She was so busy soaking in her own self-importance that she didn't immediately notice what had changed. but Ryan did. He stepped out of the car, squinting, his hands on his hips as he took in the wooden sign that now stood proudly at the entrance of the property. The Phoenix Retreat. His mouth tightened. He looked at Vanessa. Babe. That's when she finally noticed. And for the first time since the divorce, I saw something I hadn't seen in her before. Confusion. What is this? She asked, pulling off her sunglasses as she scanned the land. I didn't answer. I let her take it all in. The cleared trails. The marked cabins. The obvious presence of an actual retreat center taking shape around her. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to make sense of it. Finally, she snapped her gaze to me. Daniel. I raised an eyebrow. Vanessa. She gestured wildly. What the hell is going on? I smiled slowly, taking my time. What do you mean? She scoffed. What do I mean? What the hell is all this? She waved toward the construction crews, the banners, the signs, the workers unloading materials for the fire pit. I thought you were just moping around here, sulking over the court ruling. I chuckled. Moping? Oh no, Vanessa. I've been busy. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Doing what, exactly? I pushed off the railing, stepping closer. Building. I let the words sink in before I continued. This isn't just a cabin anymore. It's a retreat center. A men's sanctuary. A place where guys can rebuild their lives. Vanessa blinked, like I had just spoken a language she didn't understand. Ryan cleared his throat, adjusting his collar. You can't just do that. I turned to him, amused. Can't do what? He hesitated, as if trying to find the right words. You can't turn this place into a business. We have shared access to this land. No, I corrected, folding my arms. You have access to the cabin, not the land. Vanessa looked as if someone had slapped her. I pulled a rolled-up property map from my back pocket, unfurling it in front of them. The court ruling granted you partial access to this structure. I pointed at the tiny square on the map labeled cabin. But everything outside of that? All mine. Vanessa's face darkened. You did this on purpose. I tilted my head. Oh, you mean, you didn't think to check what you actually won? Her lips parted slightly. She hadn't. She had been so busy gloating over the court victory that she never stopped to consider what the fine print actually said. I watched the realization settle in. She hadn't stolen my home. She had locked herself inside of it. Lila, who had been quiet this entire time, finally spoke. This is actually really cool. Vanessa whipped around, eyes wide. Lila. But Lila wasn't paying attention to her. She was looking around with genuine curiosity. You're building an actual retreat? For men? She asked, her arms crossed. I nodded. That's the plan. She looked at the cleared trails, the signs leading to future cabins, workshops, and survival training areas. That's kind of awesome, she muttered. Vanessa snapped, No, it's not. Lila shrugged. Looks better than some stupid cabin in the woods. Ryan placed a hand on Vanessa's arm. Babe, let's just go inside. Vanessa turned back to me, her expression cold. You think this is funny, don't you? I took a deep breath, staring directly at her. No, Vanessa. I think this is necessary. She shook her head, grabbing her bags from the car. Enjoy your little project, Daniel. It won't last. I smirked, stepping back as she stomped toward the cabin. Oh, don't worry. I intend to. She disappeared inside, slamming the door. Ryan lingered for a second longer, looking around uncomfortably before following her in. But Lila? She stood there, watching, and for a brief second, she smiled. I think this place might be cooler than they realize, she said quietly. Then she turned and walked inside after them. I exhaled, turning back toward the land I had built with my own hands. She thought she had one. She had no idea she had just stepped into my world now. The slam of the cabin door echoed across the clearing, but I barely reacted. Vanessa was angry. That much was obvious. But that was the thing about her. She'd always assumed that anger gave her power. She thought control meant she could manipulate the situation, turn the tides back in her favor. Not this time. I turned back toward the retreat, watching as Marcus gestured toward one of the new posts we'd set up. We should start running electrical lines soon, he said. You still want solar panels? Absolutely, I said, keeping my voice calm, measured. Like I hadn't just destroyed Vanessa's expectations in one afternoon. I didn't even have to check my phone to know she was texting her lawyer right now, looking for a way to undo this. Marcus grinned. She's losing it, isn't she? Completely. And right on cue, the cabin door flew open again. I turned, watching Vanessa storm out, her phone still in her hand. Ryan followed behind her, less angry, more exhausted. We need to talk, she snapped. I took my time answering. About? She gestured around us, like that explained everything. This whole ridiculous project. You can't do this. I exhaled, shaking my head. You keep saying that, Vanessa, but you're not hearing me. I already did. Ryan, to his credit, actually seemed like he understood. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, man, I get that this was personal for you, but let's be reasonable. Can we at least discuss this? I leaned against the railing. Sure. What do you want to discuss? Vanessa, sensing an opportunity, pounced. This retreat nonsense is going to interfere with our ability to enjoy the cabin, she said. You're literally building all around it, making it impossible for us to have any privacy. Oh, privacy? I asked. Like the kind I wanted when you took me to court and forced your way back into my space? Her jaw clenched. This isn't the same. No, I agreed. It's better. Her eyes flashed with fury. Ryan sighed. Come on, Daniel. Be practical. A full-on retreat center? Do you really think that's sustainable? I smirked. It's already funded. That made them both pause. Ryan blinked. What? I shrugged. We've got investors, sponsors, community support. Hell, we even have a journalist covering the story. Vanessa's expression twisted. You're telling me people actually want this? Oh yeah. I nodded toward the retreat, where workers were actively constructing new pathways and setting up spaces for outdoor workshops. See, Vanessa, the thing is, when you spend years trying to control everything around you, you forget that people can build something better when they're finally free. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to argue, but there was nothing she could say. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. And what exactly do you plan to do if people start showing up? Just let strangers walk all over the property? I grinned. You're catching on. That's exactly what's going to happen. Vanessa visibly bristled. You're turning this place into some glorified camping ground for lost men, she snapped. I raised an eyebrow. You say that like it's a bad thing. She inhaled sharply, trying to recenter herself. I could see the gears turning. She was scrambling for a new angle. And then it hit her. She smiled. And not the warm kind. Oh, she said, tilting her head. You know, this actually makes sense. I always did wonder what you'd do once you lost everything. There it was. The last-ditch insult before defeat. I kept my expression even. I didn't lose everything, Vanessa. I just lost you. She faltered for a split second, and that was all I needed. I pushed off the railing, stepping forward. And let's be honest, you think I missed that? Her eyes darkened. You. No, I cut in. You don't get to twist this. You walked away. You chose this path. And now? Now you get to sit inside that cabin and watch while I build something real. Ryan shifted uncomfortably beside her, probably realizing for the first time that Vanessa wasn't as in control as she pretended to be. She squared her shoulders. We'll see about that. And with that, she turned on her heel and stormed back inside. Ryan lingered for a second before sighing and following her. Marcus let out a low whistle beside me. Damn, man, that was a thing of beauty. I chuckled, shaking my head. She's not done. No, Marcus agreed, but neither are you. And that was the difference. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was building. And Vanessa had no clue how to handle that. The dust had barely settled after Vanessa's tantrum when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, half expecting Marcus, but it wasn't him. It was Lila. She stood there with her arms crossed, eyes flicking between me and the retreat in progress. The wind ruffled her long dark hair, and for the first time, I actually took a good look at her. She wasn't a little kid anymore. She was a teenager, probably 16 or 17. with the kind of posture that screamed, "I don't want to be here, but I don't have a choice." I recognized it instantly. I had once stood in those same shoes, dragged to places I didn't belong, stuck watching adults make decisions that I had no control over. She looked over at the construction, taking in the work crews, the signs, the materials stacked near the trails. Then she smirked. "This is pissing her off, huh?" I chuckled. Straight to the point. I leaned against the deck railing, watching her carefully. "You have no idea," she snorted, kicking at a loose rock on the ground. "Good." That made me pause. I raised an eyebrow. "You don't sound too thrilled to be here either." She shrugged. "Why would I be? I don't even know why she fought for this place. It's not like she ever cared about it before." There it was. The crack in the perfect family image. I nodded slowly, my gaze shifting toward the cabin. "You're not wrong. She never liked this place when we were married. Always complained about the bugs, the lack of Wi-Fi, how boring it was." Lila let out a short laugh. "Sounds about right." I watched her for a moment. "So why are you here?" She sighed, rolling her eyes. "Because Ryan insists on these stupid, family bonding trips." She made air quotes with her fingers. "Every time he and my mom start having issues, she magically remembers that I exist and drags me along for some forced vacation." I frowned at that. "That doesn't sound great." She scoffed. "It's not." Silence stretched between us for a moment, the distant sound of hammering and chainsaws filling the space. Then she turned to face me fully. "So, what's your deal? Why are you turning this place into, like, some dude ranch?" I smirked at her description. "It's not a dude ranch." Yeah, it kind of is." She gestured to the work crews. "Guys, tools, cabins, woods. I'm pretty sure that qualifies." I chuckled. "It's a retreat. A place for guys who need to get away, figure things out, build something for themselves." She tilted her head. "So, like therapy? More like rebuilding. Some guys come out of a bad divorce, a job loss, military service, whatever it is, they need a place to reset." She studied me carefully. "And you?" I met her gaze evenly. "I needed to build something after losing everything." For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she nodded, like she understood something unspoken. "That actually makes sense." That surprised me. "Yeah." She shrugged again. "I mean, it's better than sulking in some sad bachelor apartment. At least you're doing something productive." I smirked. "Thanks, I think." She smiled slightly, then looked back at the retreat. "Can girls come here?" That made me pause. "What?" She gestured vaguely. "Like, do you let girls sign up? Or is it just for guys?" I considered that. Right now, it's a men's retreat. But maybe down the line, we could open it up. She nodded like she was filing that information away. Then, without warning, she asked, "Can I see the rest?" That took me off guard. "What, the retreat?" She nodded. "Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing better to do. And it's either this or sit in that cabin and listen to Ryan talk about his dumb investment portfolios." I laughed. "All right, fair enough." I gestured for her to follow me. "Come on, I'll give you the tour." As we walked, I pointed out different areas, the main hall, the fire pit, the trails that led into the woods where we planned to set up survival training. She asked questions, surprisingly thoughtful ones. "Are you gonna do classes? Like, actual workshops?" "Yeah. Business mentorship, survival skills, leadership training. Stuff schools don't teach you." "Are you gonna have a website?" "Working on it. You should let people sign up for stuff online. Like, have different package deals or something." I looked at her, impressed. "You sound like you've done this before." She shrugged. "Not really. But I take business classes. We had a project about startups last year. That caught my attention." "You're interested in business?" She hesitated. Then, quieter. "I want to go into design. Maybe start my own branding company." I raised an eyebrow. "So why business classes?" She sighed. "Because Ryan thinks I should do law. He says it's more stable." I didn't miss the way her shoulders tensed when she said it. I knew that feeling. That weight of expectations you don't want but feel forced to carry. I nodded. "That's a solid career, but doesn't sound like something you actually want." Her jaw clenched slightly. It's not. I stopped walking, turning to face her. Then don't do it. She blinked. What? I gestured toward the retreat around us. This place? This isn't what I was supposed to do either. I was supposed to keep a stable job, keep my marriage intact, keep up the perfect life. I shook my head. Didn't work out that way. So I stopped trying to meet expectations that weren't mine. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she smirked. You're kind of cool. You know that? I chuckled. Yeah, don't say that too loud. Might ruin my reputation. She laughed, then glanced down at her phone. Crap. I should probably get back before they realize I'm gone. I nodded. Yeah, don't want to start a war just yet. She started to walk away, but then hesitated. Then she turned back, a little uncertain. Hey, if I wanted to learn more about this kind of stuff, like branding, business stuff, could I? I smiled. You're always welcome here, Lila. She brightened slightly. Cool. Then, with one last glance at the retreat, she jogged back toward the cabin. I watched her go, realizing something. Vanessa thought she had won when she took the cabin. She had no idea that her own stepdaughter had just become my unexpected ally. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I had to. I could have easily stayed in bed, let my crew handle things. But because I wanted to be awake when it happened. When Vanessa realized she'd lost, I made my coffee slowly, taking my time, enjoying the quiet of the woods. It was one of my favorite parts of this place. The stillness before the day started. The way the early morning mist hung over the lake like a veil. Soon, that peace would be broken. I checked the time. 7:43 a.m. She wouldn't last much longer before storming out. Right on cue, the cabin door slammed open. Vanessa came out in a fury, her robe flapping behind her, her hair in a messy bun that told me she'd been tossing and turning all night. Good. Ryan followed, looking tired but not nearly as angry as she was. And behind them, Lila, arms crossed, quiet, observing. I took another slow sip of my coffee as Vanessa stomped up to the main hall construction site. Daniel, we need to talk. Now. I set my mug down on the railing. Morning to you too. She ignored that. This, she gestured wildly at the retreat being built around her, is getting out of hand. I leaned against the porch, acting like I had all the time in the world. What's the problem? Her face turned red. You know what the problem is. You've turned this place into a construction site. We can't even enjoy the cabin. I shrugged. Sounds like a you problem. Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. Come on, man. Can we just sit down and talk like adults? I raised an eyebrow. We could have done that before you two dragged me to court. He looked away, lips pressed into a thin line. Vanessa, however, wasn't backing down. You're deliberately trying to make this place unlivable for us, she accused. This retreat nonsense? It's just a way for you to get back at me. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. Vanessa, do you really think you're that important? She blinked, thrown off. What? You honestly believe I'm spending all this time, this effort, just to annoy you? I gestured toward the retreat. This is bigger than you. Bigger than me. She scoffed. Oh, please. I turned to Lila. Hey, tell her what you think. Lila, who had been completely silent until now, smirked slightly. I think it's cool. Vanessa spun toward her, eyes wide. Lila. She shrugged. What? It's true. Ryan shot her a warning look, but she just rolled her eyes. I saw Vanessa's jaw clench. She hated losing control of the narrative. I stepped down from the porch, crossing my arms. I told you, Vanessa. You won the cabin, but you didn't win the land. And that means you don't get to tell me what I can and can't do with it. She narrowed her eyes. We'll see about that. There it was. Her last card to play. She turned to Ryan. Call the lawyer. Ryan hesitated. Vanessa? Call the lawyer. Ryan sighed, pulling out his phone. I'll see what he says. I wasn't worried, because I already knew what the lawyer was going to tell them. 2 hours later, Vanessa sat on the porch of the cabin, her arms crossed, seething. Ryan stood a few feet away, still on the phone. I didn't have to hear the conversation to know what was happening. The lawyer had told them exactly what I already knew. They had no case. Vanessa might have won access to the cabin, but she had no right to dictate what happened on my land. And now? She was stuck. Her own personal hell, trapped inside a cabin that was slowly becoming an island in a growing empire of men reclaiming their lives. Ryan hung up and turned to her. "It's legal," he admitted. "There's nothing we can do." Vanessa snapped. "This is ridiculous. I refuse to accept this. We are not going to sit here and let him destroy our time here." Ryan pinched the bridge of his nose. "Vanessa, we already lost." "No," she barked. "We haven't lost. We fight harder." I leaned against the railing, watching her unravel. "You could always sell me back your access to the cabin." Her head whipped toward me. "You'd love that, wouldn't you?" I smirked. "Yeah, actually, I would." She gritted her teeth. "Forget it." I shrugged. "Your choice." She turned to Ryan. "Let's go inside. I need to think." Ryan nodded, relieved to get away from this conversation. But Lila? She didn't move. She stood there, arms crossed, watching. Vanessa noticed. "Lila." Inside. "Now." Lila didn't move. I saw something shift in her eyes. For the first time, she was seeing Vanessa for what she really was. A control freak who only cared about winning. And in that moment, Lila made her decision. She walked toward me instead. "Actually," she said, "I want to stay." Vanessa paled. "Excuse me?" Lila lifted her chin. "I want to see what Daniel's building. I want to learn about it." Vanessa took a slow step forward, voice sharp. "Lila, go inside. Now." Lila shook her head. "No." Ryan put a hand on Vanessa's arm. "Let it go." But Vanessa wasn't used to losing. Her face twisted. "I am your mother. You will do as I say." Lila laughed. Actually laughed. That's when I knew. Vanessa had lost more than just the cabin. She had lost control. Lila met her gaze evenly. "No, Mom. I'm gonna go see the retreat." Then she turned and walked toward me. I saw Vanessa's hands ball into fists, her face turning red. She opened her mouth to say something. Probably another threat, another attempt to manipulate, but Ryan stopped her. "Vanessa," he said, voice firm, "let it go." And for the first time in her life, Vanessa had no choice. She had to accept that she had lost. She stormed inside, slamming the door so hard that the windows rattled. Ryan sighed, running a hand down his face. "Good luck," he muttered before following her inside. I turned to Lila. "You sure about this?" She smiled. "Yeah, I think I want to be a part of this." And that's when I knew. Vanessa didn't just lose access to my land. She lost the one thing she thought she had full control over. Her own daughter. And I didn't have to lift a single finger. She did it to herself.